Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tier 2 Aero League Racing. My name is Aman, and you all join me today for the second race of the season here in Australia. And while we have the opportunity, and while we're at the second race of the season, let's see how the standings are shaping up. So, at the current moment in the driver standings, Jaguar currently leads the championship, of course, with 25 points. In P2, we have Trems. In P3, we have Mini Turns. P4 is Robin, and P5 goes to Cassell. So, the top five is, of course, shaping up to be very nice, and of course, with Bambino looking to be, I think, oh no, Bambino is racing this season. Okay. So hopefully we'll have something more entertaining than last season and it won't be a complete wash. Looking at the rest of the top 10, we have DRS Neil, Said Al Falasi, Jamie, Crofties, and yeah, that would be rounding off your top 10. And looking at the constructor standings, Mercedes currently lead the championship with 33 points, Alpine in P2 with 25, and then we have Ferrari in P3 with 18 points. We have Alfa Romeo. No, voice chat suspended. Oops. We have Alfa Romeo in P4 with 14 points, and Aston Martin in P5 with 8 points. And the rest of the top 10 would include the AlphaTauri, the Williams, Haas, Red Bull, and McLaren accordingly. So safe to say that the championship is lining up very, very nicely. Not much longer now until we get the race underway. I believe PSN was having some issues in terms of getting its servers up and running, but luckily for us, it seems like everything's good to go on our end. So hopefully we shouldn't be experiencing any issues as the race continues. We go to Australia, of course, a well-known track for being at one point the opening race of the season. So it's safe to say this is a track a lot of drivers are familiar with. It has had some work done over the years onto it, but we've all become very, very familiar with that now. It's a good mix of a high speed and high downforce circuit, so drivers will be looking primarily for a nice setup to balance everything between their setups. Unpredictability-wise, I mean, the walls are extremely close to the track here, so don't be surprised if we see a few safety cars out on the circuit today, and not to mention a little bit of rain in either the qualifying or the actual race itself. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, just a few more moments now until we get the race underway, so be sure to grab yourself something to eat, maybe grab something to drink, grab a loved one with yourself, why don't you? And yeah, we should be getting started very, very soon. Hello, Saeed. Good to see you as always in the chat. Khair Mubarak to you too, man. I hope your Ramadan is going well. And if any of our viewers are Muslims as well, then I wish you all a happy Ramadan. And, you know, the whole shebang. I don't think there's much longer until we get the race started now, so I'm sure Haladan will just give the go ahead. I think we're just waiting on maybe one or two more drivers. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, Haladan has now given the go-ahead, and I think we're all set to get this Grand Prix underway. Very surprisingly, I think we have a full lobby today, so this should be very, very exciting, and I think we'll be in store for a super, super entertaining race with only 60 more seconds left to go in the session. Let's take a quick look. Is Bambino racing today? Yes, he is. So a lot of us can be expecting a last to first from Bambino, as we've seen him pull for like the latter half of the last season. Well, we'll see if how he performs here today. He's going to be a driver to keep an eye on, especially considering that he won last season's championship. But yeah, not much longer now till the session gets underway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're all set to get qualifying underway here in Australia. And already, as we talked about in the pre-race, of course, the unpredictable weather is going to play a massive factor here. So it seems to be full wets are going to be the go-to tire choice for this race, as I struggle to get my telemetry all set up. And I'm sure a lot of these drivers have, of course, practiced up on in dry conditions and with dry setups. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage to adapt and how they will manage to handle themselves here on a wet circuit. Obviously, that is what differentiates a good driver from a great driver, is how they're able to adapt to different situations. So I'm looking forward to seeing some interesting results from today's race. We already have a Haas out on track, and that seems to be the Haas of Jack Kings, I believe. If it will let me switch to it. No, it is the Haas of Font. So Font is going to be beginning hopefully the first time lap of the session, as he's the first car out on track, followed closely behind by a Alfa Romeo of Jamie and the I believe that's the Williams of Fabrinaldi, or am I just completely messing this up right now? Or is it Prezemo? It is Prezemo, who's unfortunately spun out on the first corner. But again, we will be keeping our eye on Font. Already invalidated his outlap. It doesn't really make a difference. And we can already see with rain pouring down hard on this track already, it doesn't look like it's going to be clearing up anytime soon. So don't expect any dry runs in this session, at least not at the moment with how hard this rain's coming down. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some times slowly deteriorate over the course of the session. Running on board with Font, you can just see how slippery it is, especially through this fast chicane. A lot of drivers are going to be struggling for traction out here today. But if anybody in this session is in chat and they could let me know if we have a dry race, at least I would be appreciated. But if the race is looking more like this qualifying session, I think we're gonna be in we're gonna be in store for a lot of safety cars here today. Oh, tier 2 restart? Oh, what's this all about? I just it seems our admin Blowwave has just called in a restart for the entire session. So yep, I guess that's all right, I guess we're restarting. The AlphaTauri is taken. Hmm. All right, I guess we're all backing out into the main menu. We'll get another invite. I'm terribly sorry for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. I would hope that it would have been a full wet qualifying because it would have provided some entertainment for all of us back at home. But unfortunately, I think we're just gonna have to deal with it as is. So I guess get some more food, get some more drinks, grab more loved ones, and we should be getting restarted very very soon. Hello, Harshil, or Harshil. I'm not entirely too sure to pronounce how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm pretty sure you are a driver out on track at the moment, so you know what's going on. So, if you don't, well, I don't either. We're just restarting the session, I guess. So, just a little bit longer, and hopefully, when I get the invite, you should be able to join up and hopefully wait for everyone and get the race underway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the session, and I think not much longer now until we get the session underway. One of the things to note is that the weather will remain completely randomized based on this research. So in the qualifying, it won't be like it was before where it was raining, or it could be, but there's a chance it could also be completely dry or just slightly wet conditions. And obviously, this also alters the conditions for the race as well. So once again, not much longer now. We'll just wait upon Halanan's approval to ready up, and we should be good to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and this is take two for the qualifying circuit, for the qualifying session here at Australia. Hopefully, no more delays, and hopefully nothing will be preventing us from now enjoying a good, solid race in the full stretch. I just need to enable lap data, and yeah, we should be good to go. So who will be the first driver out on track? It seems to be completely dry now, or well, with rather overcast conditions, so don't be surprised if we see a few drops of rain nearing the end of the session. But there seems to be some activity at the Ferrari garage, and it seems to be Said Al-Falasi, who's going to be most likely the first car out on track today. So, oh, actually, no. In front of him, it's the Haas once again of, if I'm assuming, is that Font? It is Font. So Font will be the first driver out on track today once again. We saw him out earlier today under the wet conditions, but now it seems to be out on the dries as well. Seems rather pretty confident to be the first driver out on track. Obviously, as the session progresses, the track will just become hotter and we'll start procuring more rubber onto it, hence resulting in more grip. So pretty bold move by Font, but we'll see what sort of times he can set. Hopefully we'll be setting the first time lap of today. There's an Alfa Romeo not too far behind him. Seems to be Jamie at the moment, and then we obviously have Said in third place who's going for his outlap as well. So it's been a while, so we've already discussed the conditions of the track, and now looking at this through the dry run, you can just see how much more grip there is available for these drivers, and he seems to be out on the mediums. Did I catch that right? I did. So Font actually surprisingly out on the mediums at the moment. Not entirely too sure what's the strap behind that move. Maybe he just didn't change his tires, or this is what he's intending to do. But we'll ride on board with him to see what sort of results he can do. Obviously, this is just a one. Oh, well, I was gonna say one-shot quality, but it isn't. Font begins his first time lap here at Australia, and we'll ride on board with him to see what sort of lap times he can set coming across the first chicane very, very nicely. And he does go a little wide. No, actually, he's kind of got it all under control. DRS wide open now. 3 DRS zones on a track like this, so drivers will have to obviously look out for the cars behind them in those sections. So it's been a hot minute, so I do apologize for a bit of the rustiness when it comes to commentary. But now Font coming through Sector 1, obviously setting a 27.4, and now coming through Sector 2, where the second DRS zone presents itself. Actually, no, there's 4 DRS zones. Oh my lord, I'm out of touch with Australia. Font now coming through Sector 2. We obviously have Jamie not too far behind him as well. And riding on board with Font right now, it doesn't seem like he's really pushing all the way as he could be. Obviously, riding on those mediums is going to hinder him, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does produce a slower lap time than as compared to everybody else out on the circuit. But still, it would be exciting to see what sort of times Font can put up on the mediums. We know he's been practicing very, very hard, and the time between races, so let's see if he can hopefully yield results. A bit slippy through that exit, and now it's a straight run through towards the start-finish line. Font sets a 119.3. Nothing too massively impressive. As I was trying to find Jamie, and he set a 117.8 already. And that will be a good baseline for him to start off this race, riding on board with Mr. Golden Flame, who's unfortunately invalidated his lap time. We can go check out Said at the moment, who's now coming towards the end of his run. Managed to set a 118.0, only 2.5 tenths, or 1.5 tenths off of Jamie. I2 Point, of course, one of the new drivers here in Tier 2, looking to make a statement. We can see a lot of traffic right up ahead of him, as I'm sure he wouldn't want to be too disrupted by all of that. But now, hopefully, he looks like he's going to be avoiding most of them, as he's going to come across the line. Prezemu setting a 119.4, 1 tenth behind Font. That places him in P4 at the moment. And I2 Point now with DRS wide open, looking to make a statement with his second qualifying session here in this tier, and manages to set a 120.4. Will definitely be looking to improve if he's trying to fight near the front of the grid. DRS Neil looking like he's going to come towards the end of his run. Unfortunately, he has invalidated his lap time, but it looks like he will be going for a second run here. Hopefully he can produce some better results. Cassell, on the other hand, currently in P15 with no time set at the moment. A few other drivers to look out for. The Joker Psycho, I remember that name very well. I believe he was very, very quick as well. DRS Neil on a run of his own. There's a lot of these drivers are at the moment. Lucky High currently in P5. Oh, extremely squarely on the exit of that corner. Unfortunately goes wide and invalidates his lap time, and that's going to be the end of his run at the moment. Prezemu, on the other hand, seems to be going for another run, as it seems. Set a 119.4 earlier, was not too impressed, and now has decided to abandon his lap and actually go straight into the pits. I thought he surely had enough ERS to complete that, but I guess not. I2 Point also will be most likely heading into the pits. CL, I can't remember. I remember I used to call you, you know what, I'll just stick to CL. CL, unfortunately, currently in P9, has also invalidated his lap time. The Lucky High managing to set at 120.2. What about DRS Neil? Let's see what he can do. Coming through the final few corners here at Australia, he does have a very nice run with the slipstream and the DRS from the car in front of him. He will be looking to gain a significant amount of time through this run. Comes across the line, sets a 117.9, just barely missing out on a tenth from Jamie at the moment. Currently positions himself in P2, a very respectable lap time from him. As there was another update over there, as I didn't see, it seems the Joker Psycho set a 123. Not a time he would be too particularly proud of, unfortunately. Bambino at the moment, however. Of course, last season's Tier 2 champion, looking to make a statement here once again. I wouldn't be surprised if he backs off immediately right before the start-finish line, but or as we've seen him before, avoid setting pole position. But it is so early on in the season, you don't want to take any risks like that. And I'm sure Bambino may share the same sentiment now, watching him coming through the final two corners now. What sort of times will Bambino be able to set? That's where this whole margin lies. DRS wide open. And now Bambino comes across the line, sets a 117.7, does manage to beat out Jamie by only a tenth, and manages to take provisional pole. Bambino now currently sitting in P1. Mr. Golden Flame, a new name as well, one we're not familiar with here in Tier 2. My first time commentating over him, so I'm hopefully looking to be impressed. Has managed to set a purple Sector 2. Very nice, and is very much on the limit there. nearly invalidating his lap time, but it seemed he has everything under control with how stable his car is through the exits. And you just get to witness over there. This seems like a beautiful run. Absolutely pushing it through these corners. Mr. Golden Flame, sensational driving from him, from what it looked like from my perspective. DRS wide open now, approaching the line. Mr. Golden Flame sets a 1:17.3. It was a phenomenal lap time, a fantastic lap from him, as he manages to take provisional pole from Bambino and sits in P1. A fantastic lap from him. Go on. Fabrinaldi now. Another name we're not familiar with. A lot of new drivers here with us today in Tier 2, and it's exciting because it brings some new names, some new faces towards this tier, which I think has been needed for such a long time. So I'm so glad to see that there's so many new drivers to join us for this season in particular. Now, Fabrinaldi looking to set a fantastic lap time for us as well. Now approaching the start-finish line, managed to set a 1:18.9. Unfortunately, it's not enough to fight near the top of the grid, but he does manage to position himself into P9. Casal seems to be out on a second run, has managed to set a purple sector 1. In the Alfa Romeo, would be looking to join his teammate near the front of the grid. His teammate, of course, Jamie, currently in P3 with a 1:17.85. And he also manages to set a purple sector 2 with a 44.471. So Casal absolutely flying at the moment, as most of the drivers, quite significant amount of drivers, have now come back into the pits to prepare for their second runs. And now Casal coming to the final corner with DRS wide open. The Alfa Romeo absolutely flying here as it seems. Coming across the line, he sets a 1:17.8, and joining his teammate is exactly what he does. Actually manages to beat him out and goes into P4. Actually overtaken just right now by Jaguar, who manages to beat both the Alfa Romeos out and goes into P3. It was a great lap from him as well. Very intense laps I'm seeing here near the front of the grid. A lot of drivers, I wasn't expecting a lot of them to enter the 117s, but I guess not. Trems now, also a driver very known throughout ALR, coming across the line, manages to set a 1:17.7, and once again beating out the Alfa Romeos, going into P4. As it stands, Mr. Golden Flame is still starting on provisional pole, and Bambino does not like the sound of that, as he's now begun his second outlap for the session. Seems Prezem was on a run once again. Currently in P10 with the 1:18.8. He'll be looking to improve. Has just dropped down to P11. You have a caution in Sector 3. I mean, that can clear up. Yep, 7 minutes and 30 more seconds left to go in the session. Paladin, unfortunately, retiring without setting a lap time. I'm not too sure why that happened. But we've been riding on board with Prezem throughout his entire lap. Hopefully he can set something decent for us. And no, he does not. He actually goes right back into the pits. Lovely. That's what we love to see. Bambino not too far off from beginning his outlap. And what's interesting is Mr. Golden Flame has also entered back out on track and now is looking to set his second lap time. A very good benchmark earlier with a 1:17.3. It'd be interesting to see if he can actually be the first driver to enter the 1:16s. Or maybe that might be a bit too much to ask for so early on in the session. DRS Neil currently in P7 out on a run of his own. Of course, in the Aston Martin. Has set a purple sector 1. Very interesting. Hopefully, if he can keep this pace up, we may be looking for towards a three-way fight for the lead of this race. Or actually, as it stands at the moment, Mr. Golden Flame is actually kind of pulled very significantly ahead, with P2 to P5 all being separated by roughly a tenth, and then Mr. Golden Flame being roughly 4/10 ahead of everybody else. Riding on board with this Aston Martin. I do want to jump on board with Bambino as soon as I can. It seems his teammate is out on track with him at the moment, hopefully looking to give him some of that DRS advantage. Hopefully looking to bring his teammate up to pace. at the front of the grid, and now we can watch as DRS Neil comes across the line, sets a 117.1, a fantastic lap from DRS Neil as he completely blows everyone out of the water and goes 2/10 faster than Mr. Golden Flame. So where we thought it might have been a two-way fight, DRS Neil throws a spanner into the works and makes it a three-way fight. We saw Bambino using his teammates' slipstream to his advantage through the DRS zone, and now we can see now if he can hopefully bring that fight towards the front of the grid. Obviously, six tenths off of P1, has actually abandoned his lap time and decides to not complete his lap, decides to go back into the pits. Meanwhile, Lucky High is now coming towards the end of his run. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be doing any significant amount of damage. Meanwhile, Mr. Golden Flame obviously out on a run of his own. Currently in P2, was on provisional pole, has had that taken away from him now. Will be looking to bounce back as soon as he possibly can. Now approaching the final two corners out on track. See what sort of times he can set for himself. Obviously, he has 2 more tenths to gain, a bit more than 2 more tenths to gain if he's looking to take back provisional pole. Comes across the line, sets a 117.0, and once again takes provisional pole right back to him. Manages to beat out DRS Neil only by a tenth, or a bit less than a tenth, but fantastic racing from him at the moment. And Mr. Golden Flame does take back provisional pole. Crofty is surprisingly a driver I've never really seen before, but does manage to get into P3 with a 117.5, a great lap from him, kind of bridging the barrier between P2 and P4 at the moment. And of course, we'll keep an eye on the rest of the drivers. The Joker Psycho, of course. Unfortunately, has invalidated his lap time. Will not be looking to really improve this time around. Mini turns currently in P12. He's just freshly begun his run as well. Seems a few drivers have actually managed to improve their lap times. It seems the Lucky High has actually brought himself up into P10, a fantastic time from him, of 118.2. Still roughly 1.2 seconds off of provisional pole, but as it stands, being in the top 10 is better than not being in the top 10. Let's take a look near the bottom of the grid. Of course, CL never getting really a chance to set a lap time. His currently hasn't set one as of yet. Robin, of course, hasn't set a lap time himself either. And with only 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the session, time is running out for a lot of these drivers. So you can see a bunch of them in the pits now, preparing for what should be their final runs, as there's just a random soft tire compound out on track. Not too sure who that may have belonged to. That might have been Halanans, which would explain his retirement. Maybe I'm just not seeing a whole lot of... Fortunately, CL not really lighting up the timing sheets, as he hasn't really set a purple sector as of yet. However, if he can just improve and set a lap time, I'm sure he would be happier with anywhere other than P18. As now you can see, with time winding down, a bunch of these drivers are now beginning to exit out onto the track to begin their final laps here at Australia. 2 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the session. And now here we watch CL coming across the line. He sets a 117.7, a very respectable lap time from him, placing him in P6. But unfortunately, is it a bit too late to maybe be making a push like that, as most of these drivers have begun their final runs. And of course, that would mean that they will definitely be looking to improve and push themselves further up the grid. Quite a few drivers currently not out on track at the moment. There's a few that I do want to obviously keep my eye on, that being one of the few front runners at the moment. Cassell looks like he has just set his lap time, so I don't think he's going to be setting another anytime soon. And then as we ride on board with DRS Neil, he's currently going through his out lap. Mr. Golden Flame now currently out on track. Oh, as he drives straight into the wall. And that's going to be the end of his session. It looks like he's completely lost control of his car there. And unfortunately for us, Mr. Golden Flame's qualifying story comes to an end here. But now this opens up a massive window of opportunity for DRS Neil and everybody else to really overtake him and get past him and take pole position away. You hate to see it, but now this really does present a Cinderella story for a lot of these drivers. DRS Neil, of course, currently in P2, roughly a tenth behind Mr. Golden Flame. Will be looking to just find that extra bit of pace to take pole position away. Crofty is now back out on track, looking to manage through this traffic as he's allowing the Red Bull to get past him, and that Red Bull being the previous season's Tier 2 champion, of course, Bambino. It's not looking to waste any time at the moment. Jaguar and Trems also have... Trems has now begun his run by the looks of it. Jaguar also. And the Joker Psycho unfortunately disqualified for the session for going the wrong way. That's painful to see. But now as you watch with the yellow flags flying throughout the circuit, DRS Neil now begins his timed run. And we'll ride on board with him to see if he can maybe beat out Mr. Golden Flame just by a small amount. Coming through Sector 1 right now, it seems like he's on a good pace at the moment. Font has retired from the session, and that's going to be the end of his qualifying run. Coming through Sector 1, he seems like he's a 10th down at the moment. This is not what DRS Neil would want. However, of course, the rest of the track left to go. Let's see if he can improve his lap times a little bit. Cassell will not be improving his time run, so he stays in P3 at the moment. Does manage to set a purple Sector 2, though. However, he still is not up on his current lap time. So DRS Neil really needs to find that little bit of that time in this final section. And if he can, he will be looking to start on pole position. And if not him, there are other drivers that are more than happy to take that position away from him. Now coming through the final two corners here at Australia, what will DRS Neil be able to do? Coming through the final corner now, DRS wide open, heading towards the start-finish straight. Will DRS Neil be able to take away pole position? No, yes, he will, with a 1:16.9, becomes the first driver in the session to enter the 1:16s. Now we ride on board with Bambino, previous years. Unfortunately, he's invalidated his lap time, so that's going to be the end of his run. Let's take a look at what Crofties is doing at the moment, coming through the final two corners himself. Unfortunately for Bambino that he's going to have to abandon his lap time. Crofty's now coming across the line. What sort of times will he set? He sets a 1:17.4. Unfortunately, it's not enough to get Cassell, but he's going to have to be happy with it. Staying in P3 at the moment. Can't be too upset by starting on the second row of the grid. And it looks like that's going to be the end of the session. So, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to DRS Neil for starting on pole position. Mr. Golden Flame, of course, had an unfortunate incident. As a result, he's dropped down into P2. Cassell currently starting on P3, Crofties in P4, and Jamie in P5. The rest of the top 10, we have Bambino, CL, Jaguar, Trems, and Saeed. And a very strong start for the Alfa Romeo team, starting in P3 and P5 respectively. So we'll see how that plays into effect as the race continues, if there's going to be any race orders or team strategies or not. Yes, what a fantastic qualifying session. Now, hopefully, we should have an even better race in store for us very, very soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're all set to get the Australian Grand Prix underway. It's a completely clear sky ahead of us, and of course, it gives me no warning, and we're all set to get the race underway. There's 5 red lights. It's the lights out and away we go here at the Australian Grand Prix. DRS Neil seems to have gotten off to a very, very nice start as Cassell, as Mr. Golden Flames already dropped down a position. Cassell moves up into P2, and now now Mr. Golden Flames going side by side with Crofties. Luckily for him, does come ahead, and now we can see Cassell chasing down the leader of this race. It doesn't look like there's going to be any overtaking over at the front of the grid. However, at the back we can see Jamie now going around the outside, making a fantastic Crofty going around the outside, making a fantastic move and managing to promote himself up into P4. A lot of activity in the background there as Bambino drops down into P6 and now has to fight his way through the grid, looking to finish up on the podium. And already we're off to a very, very hot start. Looking down towards the back of the grid, we can see Trems getting extremely close to Said, basically pushing that Ferrari along. And as a matter of fact, looking at the front of the grid, we can see Cassell and DRS Neil coming into a battle of their own. DRS Neil actually dropping down from P1 into P2. Cassell getting past him very easily on that straight. And already we're looking at a very hot start for this race. Mr. Golden Flame not looking to be left behind in all this action. Has a great view on this fight going on ahead of him. Obviously have to look out for Crofties behind him as well. He's looking to get past DRS Neil as soon as he possibly can. As we can see, Cassell's already beginning to slightly pull away. Might have a better race setup as compared to a qualifying setup. And now we can see with lap 1 coming towards the end with now lap 1 coming towards an end, it looks like we've had a rather clean start here, as I don't see really any drivers heading into the pits. Obviously the Ferrari of Robin quite significantly slower behind everybody else. I'm not too sure what's going on over there, but I'm sure there's something or the other. Oh, I'm sorry if you guys can hear the background noise. I had the stream running on my phone. But now going back, bringing our attention right back to Mr. Golden Flame. And actually bringing our attention a bit back towards the back of the grid. CL's unfortunately picked up a penalty already. It's only been the start of the session. Luckily it doesn't look like it involved any contact. Meanwhile, Said closing in on Trems now. Obviously we saw Trems basically pushing Said along, and now Said looks to return the favor here in lap 2, but bringing our attention right back to the front. Mr. Golden Flame getting extremely close to DRS Neil. This is the place where DRS Neil got overtaken last time, and once again on the exact same part of the circuit. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to stop this move as Mr. Golden Flame promotes himself up into P2 and now begins chasing down Cassell. Obviously no DRS as of yet. All drivers are simply relying on their setups and their slipstream advantages. And already we can see a bit of a train now beginning to form from P1 to P8 or P7. So these drivers fighting hand in hand extremely closely with each other. And now coming towards the end of lap 2, DRS will be activated. That's Mr. Golden Flame actually managing to set the fastest lap time of the race with a 1:20.9. Race control has given us the update that DRS has been enabled in the session. I'm constantly looking up and down the grid order just to make sure I don't miss out on any overtaking opportunities, but at the moment the foe and Robin has retired from the session. That will be it, as Fabrinaldi is going to be the first driver to enter the pits, as a matter of fact, possibly because of some damage. Crofty is getting extremely close to DRS Neil now. So as fantastic as a start Neil had in qualifying, it looks like his setup has really come back to bite him, as he isn't really gaining anymore. And now Mr. Golden Flame, who was looking like a contender in the qualifying session, has to go out onto the grass, and now taking the inside line, manages to overtake Cassell and promotes himself up into P1. Great racing there, and we can see Crofty and Bambino. Bambino actually managing to promote himself back up into P5 after dropping down to P6. Is already looking to fall off between the front runners. Jaguar looked towards the inside of Jamie at a possible overtaking opportunity, decides to back out of it, and Mr. Golden Flame already creating an 8/10 gap to P2 at the moment. The Bambino not slowing down whatsoever, has a 3/10 gap to the car ahead, but obviously with this DRS now and this DRS train forming, it's just going to be that much harder to overtake on the straight. So he's going to have to rely heavily on his corner movement and his navigating through the circuit. But I have also heard that Bambino might have been given a setup ban, considering how quick he is. I guess that would even the playing field significantly, as we can see now. But still, without a setup to still end up in P5, that's... ooh, wow. And already Mr. Golden Flame, or I'm just going to call him Golden Flame. Golden Flame has already increased the gap to P2 to 1.3 seconds. He's not going to be worried about DRS anytime soon. Meanwhile, Cassell does have DRS Neil right behind him. He's gotten overtaken here twice before, and now going around the outside, he's going to be looking to return the favor right back to Cassell. As he does, manages to promote himself back up into P2. Fantastic racing here between P2 and P3. And now he will Cassell? Yes, he will. DRS Neil will have the DRS off of Cassell and manages to retain, staying in second place at the moment. Bringing our attention back down, Crofty being absolutely sandwiched between Cassell and Bambino. Obviously, it's a very intense race for him. Meanwhile, Jaguar looked towards an overtaking opportunity on Jamie. He's constantly diving towards the inside line, trying to fill up his rearview mirrors. Of course, nothing doing yet, though. And now, once again, you can see him looking towards the inside to maybe scare Jamie into some sort of mistake, trying to force him into making some sort of error that would allow him to get past him very easily. And it looks like he might have just done that now. No, he hasn't. A bit too far back on this occasion. Ooh, an overtake here at the back. Oh, it seems to be Jack Kings and Mini Turns going around the outside on that corner. And now they're side by side heading through this section. Luckily, both very clean racing from both drivers as Mini Turns does manage to make the move and promotes himself up into P12. Great racing up and down the circuit. It's hard to keep up with all the action as it's unfolding in front of us. And once again, Cassell riding really closely behind DRS Neil. It seems to be the favorite overtaking spot on the circuit at the moment. Cassell once again sends it down the inside and manages to trade positions. However, Crofties gets involved with a massive incident with the DRS Neil. And unfortunately, DRS Neil spins out and drops down. And we have a virtual safety car here in Australia. What happened there? It seemed like DRS Neil obviously had to slow down heading into that corner, and Crofties was just not ready for it. And we can see a bit of a mix-up going on over here as Trems is trying to let Crofties go through, as to avoid any sort of penalties himself. But it was very unfortunate, as now we'll have to see how much damage DRS Neil has experienced in his car. It looks like his car is okay, but he will be heading back into the pits, possibly for a front wing change. And that spices things up. Of course, in the virtual safety car, there is no overtaking allowed, and drivers will have to maintain a certain pace through the lap. But when those green flags start flying, we're back under racing conditions. Interestingly enough, it is an Alpine and Alfa Romeo show, with the two Alpines going P1 and P4, and the Alfa Romeos being in P2 and P3 respectively. And it's green lights, and we're back under racing conditions. Unfortunately, we've had another incident where Jamie gets spun out and gets dropped down into P6 as he's looking to recover through the session. So much action unfolding over here in Australia, and we're only lap 6 of 29 into this race. Of course, when you have a full grid and a full lobby, you can expect these sort of incidents, but this is getting a bit out of hand. However, looking at the race conditions now, Golden Flame currently roughly 2 seconds ahead of P2. We can see Jamie getting, so we can see CL getting past Jamie, and now Jaguar making a move through the chicane actually, and managing to promote himself up into P3, looking to get closer to his teammate. And if we go back down a little bit, we can see that the action unfolding here from P6 all the way down to P8, as these three drivers seem to be neck and neck with each other. Another driver who suffered heavily through that entire collision course was Bambino, who's unfortunately dropped down into P15. And Jamie, after that spin earlier, will be looking to go into the pits and most likely switch off of his, change his front wings. As we quickly take a look at the tires drivers are running, as we can see the mediums seem to be the general consensus to be the best tire on. It seemed like Jamie had a drive-through penalty actually. Very interesting. And now CL getting very close to Saeed, who managed to benefit from this incident very significantly, now up to P5. Joker Psycho and Prezemo, of course, coming into a battle of their own. And the Joker Psycho managing to get past him, promoting himself up into P10. Let's keep our eye on this fight at the moment. CL and closing in on Saeed. And it doesn't look like it's going to be much of a fight. With DRS wide open and CL closing in on Saeed, will he be able to make the move heading into the chicane? Decides to back out of it and not really take any unnecessary risks. And Saeed goes extremely wide heading out of that corner. And this opens a massive window for CL as he's looking to get past Saeed, and he does with ease before the corner even begins, and promotes himself up into P5 with his AlphaTauri teammate. Jack Kings, on the other hand, 5 tenths behind the Lucky High. There's some more overtaking going on over here as Jamie's once again experienced some sort of issue there and drives into the gravel and loses out on position. And we have a full-fledged safety car. We have a full-fledged safety car for that, and now all of a sudden, all these drivers are heading into the pits to switch off of their tires and switch onto the hards, which is probably the most sensible decisions that they could make. At the moment, it seems like Jaguar was the first driver in, and there seems to be a massive hold-up here at the AlphaTauri garage. CL not too happy with that, and of course has to switch onto the hards. Luckily, it doesn't look like he's missed out on too much, as he does still come out ahead of Saeed. And we can see the giant change around now taking place. So we'll wait until the safety car until the drivers catch up to the safety car before we take a quick review at what everyone's new positioning is looking like. Interestingly enough, Jaguar 14 seconds almost behind Cassell, obviously catching up now under safety car conditions. I didn't think that warranted a safety car, I'll be honest. I mean, yeah, I saw Jamie go into the gravel over there, but he didn't stop. He didn't beach his car. He didn't have to retire. I don't see why we needed a full-fledged safety car for that. Unless there was another incident I missed, but I don't see any retirements out on track. So it looks like sorry. It looks like things have cleared up now, and now that we get a chance to take a breather, let's take a review at the current positioning for the drivers. Mr. Golden Flame and Cassell, obviously in P1 and P2, both drivers unfortunately not getting an opportunity to go into the pits to switch off of their medium tires. We'll see seeing if they take this chance now and take the hit of losing out on multiple positions, or if they decide to stay out. Jaguar currently in P3, Crofty in P4, CL in P5, Saeed in P6, Trems in P7, Lucky High in P8, Bambino, who obviously started near the front of the grid, currently in P9, and DRS Neo, who started off on pole position, currently in P10. And it looks like Golden Flame actually took the risk, decides to go into the pits to switch off of his medium tires and onto the hards. Meanwhile, Cassell decides to stay out on track and keeps the lead of the race. And instead of checking on tires at the moment, let's check position changing. So Jaguar has gained 6 positions through that incident. Hallinan has gained 8 positions through that incident. And DRS Neil losing 8. Mr. Golden Flame, of course, losing 11 positions. So were some big gainers and some big losers through that chaos over there. But regardless, we are still here, currently in lap 9 of 29. And with Cassell leading the rest of the grid, it's going to be up to him to decide when he wants to go. Of course, race control will give us the update when the safety car will be coming in at the end of the lap, but Cassell is obviously, it's going to be completely up to him and up to his discretion when he decides to go, as to catch the driver behind him off guard and the rest of the grid off guard. So while we have this break, let's just take a quick breather, and we'll come back right as we get the update that the safety car is coming in at the end of the lap. Whoa, what happened here? I looked away for a few seconds and I just see a bunch of incidents taking place. It looked like CL picked up a penalty for a severe collision with the driver, and we already got the update that race control that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. So it's now up to Cassell when he decides to go, and it looks like he hasn't decided to go as of yet. So why is Jaguar so far behind him at the moment? Cassell really keeping it extremely close with the safety car at the moment. And now Cassell decides to go through the final corner, and it looks like Jaguar is significantly far away from him, as it doesn't look good for him, as Crofty's is right on his tail. Will Crofty set it down and heading into turn 1? It doesn't seem to be the case. He seems to be a bit too far back at the moment, and we're back under racing conditions. So obviously after that safety car, all the drivers are now bunched up together, and I'm not too sure why Jaguar didn't keep that distance with Cassell, as I'm sure he would have gotten past him very easily, being on the fresher compounded tires and those mediums now beginning to wear off. But alas, this was the decision that was made, so I'm sure he's going to stick with it. As I'll bring our attention down towards the middle of the grid. Font seems to be roughly 3/10 off of DRS Neil, as I'm sure DRS Neil would not like me to continuously bring it up, but him obviously starting on provisional pole, on pole position, and now being dropped down into P10 or P9. He surely is not happy with himself, and he's going to be looking to gain as the race continues, and as I'm sure he has lots of time to do so. Also, it's hard to forget Mr. Golden Flame, who's, of course, sending it down the inside of the McLaren. He's got the Mercedes right behind him, but with that inside line heading into the chicane, he does manage to make the move and promotes himself up into P11. And now bringing our attention back towards the front of the grid, but this is what I was talking about. If Jaguar had kept his car closer to Cassell, he would have made this move a lot sooner, and now 16 tenths, not 16 tenths, 2 tenths now separating Cassell and Jaguar now. And Jaguar coming through the final corner. Obviously no DRS just as yet. Will be relying simply on his setup and his slipstream and his tires to get past Cassell. And of course he just doesn't have enough top end speed to really catch up to the Alfa Romeo. So he's going to have to stay behind him for just a little bit longer. But he does manage. Oh no, Mr. Golden Flame currently in P11 manages to set the fastest lap time of the race. And we can see the Alpine basically pushing the Alfa Romeo along, trying to force them into some sort of incident or some sort of mistake. But we can't forget Crofties, who's basically sandwiching this Alpine along with the Alfa Romeo. The pressure is definitely on, and we can just see the run. Jaguar has gotten out of that corner, and he's absolutely flying side by side, and it doesn't look like Cassell's going to really be able to do much about this, as there's another overtake taking place right behind us. As it seems that the AlphaTauri drivers are looking to block out the Ferrari, and Jaguar manages to make the move very comfortably before the corner even begins and promotes himself up into P1. Now Crofty looking to take advantage of the vulnerable Cassell. Will he be looking to make a dive down the inside? Yes, he will. Sends it down the inside. Unfortunately, decides to back out of that move at the very last moment and cannot make the move stick. We saw the Ferrari of Said looking towards making a dive down the inside of CL, who of course had to be held back significantly there by that incomplete move by Crofties. But Crofties, of course, not giving up just as yet. 3.5 tenths separating him and Cassell at the moment. And he is gaining ever so slightly. DRS has now been enabled in this race. But Crofties once again deciding to stay behind. It does not want to risk making the unnecessary overtake. Of course, no DRS just as yet, and now we're right on board with him. Will he make a move dive down the inside? No, he will not. Nearly makes collision with the Alfa Romeo. Luckily for us, they avoid any sort of incident with each other. And now Crofty's pushing the Alfa Romeo along. Now my question, 3-second time penalty? Oh, Crofty picks up a 3-second time penalty for track invalidations. He went wide too many times, and now we can see CL kind of getting a bit sick and tired of waiting for his teammate to make a move, as he now looks to be taking advantage of this Alfa Romeo along with his teammate, and we can see the Alfa Romeo block off the path. Crofty manages to get past Cassell. Cassell closes the door on CL, and CL unfortunately unable to make the move stick, and Crofty's now beginning to pull away from the Alfa Romeo. And of course, look at what situation he's left his teammate in, being absolutely sandwiched between a bunch of drivers. He's gonna have his hands full with dealing with not only having to overtake but also managing to defend from this Ferrari. Of course, the Alfa Romeo now, as it's pushing along the track, going through the final corner on track. DRS wide open once again, and all these drivers now gaining. Saeed, of course, very close to CL, but of course, it looks like he has a downforce heavy setup, which didn't allow him to really catch up to CL. But now coming through those corners, we can just see that he's really gained that time right back. And Cassell barely staying within that DRS time frame of Crofty's, and that's basically what kept him alive through those two straights. And now Saeed looks like he's gotten a very nice run out of that corner. We saw that he had a downforce heavy setup. And through those corners, we can already see that he was gaining. But now through this straight, CL closing in on Cassell. We saw his teammate make the same move earlier and a lap before, and it looks like it's no different now. CL manages to get past Cassell, and now Saeed looks at an opportunity, looking to go around the outside of Cassell, decides to back out of it, maybe forcing him into some sort of mistake to allow himself to get a better run out of this corner. And with DRS wide open and Cassell left completely empty, it looks like Cassell won't be able to defend from this. Saeed now sends it around the outside. Will he be able to complete the move? There's a bit of collision between the drivers, but there's been a massive collision between the drivers. Saeed completely spins Cassell out. Cassell drops down into P11, and a bunch of drivers managed to luckily get away from that unscathed, as I was sure that they would pick up some sort of incident and body damage, but luckily for us, all drivers seem to have gotten away from it scot-free. Bambino now has managed to bring himself back up into P5 after getting involved in the incident earlier. But what's interesting now is the gap is closing down between Crofties and Jaguar for the lead of the race. Lap 14 of 29, 15 more laps to go in this session. And of course, Crofty is now with a 6/10 gap to Jaguar. We'll be looking to close it as soon as possible. Both drivers have switched onto the hard tire compound, so they'll most likely be looking to go towards the end of the race, assuming that their tires can last that long. So it really just comes down to a race of pace. Both drivers on an equal, their tires are have an equal lifespan of 6 laps at the moment, so no tire advantages for both drivers at the moment. And Crofty's waiting with his DRS wide open, catching up to Jaguar. He's gaining, he's looking towards the outside. Will he get the move done before the corner even begins? Heading into the chicane, Crofty manages to get past Jaguar and promotes himself up into P1. And Jaguar, of course, not going to be done with this overtake just as yet. Of course, doesn't have DRS through this corner, but if he can just stay close to him as much as possible. Of course, we can't forget Crofty does have a 3-second time penalty, which will be added on at the end of the race. So realistically, Jaguar just needs to drive a clean race and stay within 3 seconds of Crofty's, and he should be okay. Now heading through the final corner, DRS wide open. Jaguar trying to gain as much as he can on Crofty's. Crofty's looks like he's using up a lot of his battery to make sure Jaguar does not gain on him. Bambino 6/10 behind his teammate Lucky High. And DRS Neil unfortunately retires from the session, and that's going to be the end of his race. And we once again have a full-fledged safety car here in lap 15. I did see out on track that he was at a standstill out on track. He must have had some sort of incident, and unfortunately his car no longer could run. But that's going to be the end of his race. Our pole position sitter unfortunately retires from the session. And now in lap 15 of 29, we have once again another safety car. And it seems like things have once again shaped themselves up to make things very interesting. Crofty is now leading this race. Jaguar in P2, CL in P3, Saeed in P4, Lucky High in P5, Bambino in P6, Trems in P7, Golden Flame in P8, and Font and Joker Psycho in P9 and P10. And we obviously wait for Crofties to catch up to the safety car, of course. Drivers are going to have to maintain that certain pace through the lap. They didn't really get a chance to really separate from each other, so now, of course, all drivers are already pretty bunched up together, so I wouldn't be too surprised if the safety car doesn't really last that long. As Casella is going extremely slowly. Of course, he does have the problem that he does need to catch up to the back of the grid, being in P18 at the moment. And Jaguar actually heads into the pits to switch off of his hard tire compounds, as a lot of the drivers are actually following suit. So it looks like drivers are taking advantage of the safety car to switch off of these tire compounds, and who will benefit from this? So now that's the big question. Bambino decides to stay out on his 10-lap-old hards. Font decides to stay out on his 8-lap-old mediums, which I'm not too sure is the most sensible decision to make. But Jaguar now comes out on fresh set. No, it doesn't look like a fresh set, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if Jaguar had it looked like there was a bunch of blistering on his tires, but regardless, Jaguar, according to the data on the left side, has come out on a fresh set of medium tires, and I'm sure there's not really much Bambino, Font and possibly Crofty could do to really prevent an overtake from a fresher set of tires over there. Jaguar was probably throttle limited by the game. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. He's currently in P4 now, catching up to the grid, so I think he should be fine. Of course, still under the safety car. So we wait for the drivers to bunch up together and then for race control to give us the update. So once again, I will see you all once when race control gives us that update. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, Race Control has given us the update that the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. And once again, if you're unfamiliar with how the safety car works, it's now up to Crofties, who's leading this race at the moment. It's completely up to him to bunch up the grid and go at a time that he deems best to catch Bambino, Font, Jaguar, and all the other drivers off guard. So we're right on board with him to see when exactly he decides to go. Now, coming up to this the final few corners, very, very slowly, weaving left and right to keep some temperatures in his tires. When will he decide to go? Obviously, he has Bambino right behind him, who's very difficult to lose on the restarts. And now Crofty decides to go, but Bambino doesn't look like he's really lost touch of himself, of himself from last season. Has managed to keep up very significantly with him. Font, on the other hand, is looking to get past Bambino, maybe looking to dive down the inside. Unfortunately, he decides to think better of it, decides to stay in P3. However, he does have the fresh tires of Jaguar to worry about, who's absolutely steamrolling past these drivers. There's 3 wide heading into the next corner, and with the inside line, unfortunately, Jaguar decides to back out. Font gets forced out onto the gravel, and it looks like Bambino manages to stay ahead. And unfortunately for Font, losing out on a position there by being pushed off into the gravel, we may be looking at a report later on in the session. But however, he does manage to lose out on significantly more positions as CL manages to promote himself up into P4. Bambino picks up a time penalty now. And in the span of a few corners, we've already had so much action. Now Jaguar racing with Bambino, looking with the inside line. He does manage to make the move stick and already promotes himself up before the start of the corner. And Bambino's looking to stick with him as much as he possibly can, coming through the chicane now. And Jaguar trying to close the gap to Crofty. This is the benefit of being on a fresher compounded tire. The grip that you have is just so much more. Unfortunately, he's not close enough to maybe make a dive heading into this corner, but assuming that he can keep himself nice and tidy behind him, we could be looking at a very... Actually, we could be looking at a move a lot sooner than we thought that we would be expecting to, but now Jaguar trying to find some sort of opening with Crofties, but Crofties defending with his life at the moment, but there's not much he's going to be able to do on the straight. Jaguar now with the DRS, no DRS even needed actually, just with pure pace alone, manages to make the move on Crofties and promotes himself back up into P1. And Golden Flame, very interestingly enough, actually getting past Font as well. Font having an absolute nightmare of a restart. Now with Saeed right behind him on the fresher compounded tires, he manages to block him off as we have a yellow flag in the session. It seems to be Jamie's unfortunately retired from the session, and that's going to be the end of his run. We were talking about how well the Alfa Romeos were doing at the start of the race, and now unfortunately both drivers near the back of the grid at the moment. But now our attention goes towards the AlphaTauris, who have done a great job at closing the gap towards each other. And CL looks like he's going to be getting past his teammate very, very easily. Crofty should not make this difficult for him, as I doubt he will, but he's still going side by side with him. Hopefully he should back off before the beginning of the next corner, as he does. And CL promotes himself up into P2. And that allows him to, and the Crofties has now just allowed his teammate to catch up to Jaguar with only 10 laps left to go. Some more action in store for us here near the middle of the grid, as Golden Flame basically pushing Bambino along here now. Of course, Golden Flame being on the faster compounded tires will not like to be behind Bambino for too long now. Bambino should have maybe come in for that pit stop when everybody else was. But in hindsight, of course, there's not much you can do now. And now Golden Flame looking to get past Bambino. Will he be sending down the inside? He absolutely has to if he wants to make this move stick. And now with the better compounded tires, both drivers go onto the grass there. And Saeed looking to take advantage of this situation as he gets past both drivers, as he gets past both Bambino and Mr. Golden Flame and promotes himself up into P4. I wish we got a better view of that, as I tried to switch a camera into a camera angle where I could see what was going on. Unfortunately, I didn't get to witness it, but great racing from Saeed to anticipate both drivers are going to make a mistake and he can take advantage of it. And now once again, Golden Flame, once again behind Bambino. You know, he must be getting frustrated with those fresher compounded tires. And it can't be too long now before Bambino is going to really be able to do anything about this move, and already we can see both drivers basically trying to stay ahead of each other. We can see Mr. Golden Flame looking at any possible opportunity he has to make that move. Unfortunately, no window open for him just as yet. But with 9 laps left to go, it doesn't look like Bambino's really going to be able to do too much, as now Mr. Golden Flame and Bambino go side by side with each other. Golden Flame with the inside line, he does manage to make the move stick, and that does compromise Bambino there slightly, as Lucky High does seem to be on the faster compounded tires. I get the competitive spirit from Bambino, but he really should consider letting his teammate go through, granted that he's on the fresher compounded tires. And Golden Flame already beginning to pull away from the rest of the from Bambino, as we can see already. Because there seems to be a massive incident. Oh, no massive incident. Seems to be Tremps coming into the pits. For a front wing change, that has to be rough. And with only 8 laps left to go in the session, time is running out for these drivers. Say pushing up to Crofty's now. Of course, Crofty is also suffering from almost a very similar fate to Bambino. Granted that he is on those 13-lap-old hards, and Said's on those 5-lap-old mediums. Obviously, the softer the tire compound, the faster the tire will be, and Said proving that right now, without any resistance really from Crofty, he's managing to get past him and promotes himself up into P3, standing on the bottom step of the podium now. Is Said Al-Falasi in the Ferrari? Wow. Bambino, of course, letting his teammate through, which I believe was the wise decision to make. And Lucky High, currently in P6, is going to hopefully not prove his teammate wrong and advance further and further ahead. He can hopefully get past Crofty's, assuming that he has the pace to keep up to him. Perzemu and Fabrinaldi. I hope I said your name right. If I didn't, just correct me later. Both Williams side by side with each other. We can see mini turns pulling off to the right side to avoid the slipstream there. Some smart racing, so we can see from the whole grid. And Golden Flame with his 6-lap-old mediums once again would not like to be held back by Crofties. We know Golden Flame has the pace, granted, as we've seen from the qualifying sessions. However, he just needs to get past Crofties, and hopefully he'll have enough time to catch up to the rest of the front of the grid. And as we ride on board with him now, approaching the DRS zone, there isn't much Crofties can really do to defend from this. And now we can see DRS wide open. And yes, we can see with the inside line, Golden Flame gets past Crofties very easily, as there's really not much Crofties can do from a car that's so much faster than him at the moment. And we can just see it through the chicane, how much of a gap increase we've seen between both the drivers. However, Crofties does have, oh no, he doesn't have any DRS, so no. Golden Flame manages to get past Crofties, promotes himself up into P4, and Saeed is now the next target. Seems to be a driver swap between the McLaren drivers. Joker Cycle allowing his teammate who's on the medium compound to go through instead. Six more laps to go. Time is running out. And the only driver that seems to be the closest battle out on track at the moment seems to be between Perzemu and Mini Turns. Does Cassell have a front wing? Oh no, he does. For a second there, I thought I thought Cassell just had no front wing. Golden Flame picks up a 3-second time penalty. Interesting. So while we have the chance, why not take a look at these penalties? So CL obviously has a 3-second time penalty himself. And granted that Saeed can stay within that 3 seconds, he'll be looking to get past him and promote himself up into P2. We just see a bunch of more penalties. Golden Flame currently in P4 has a 6-second penalty himself. I'm not too sure if he has enough time to really create much of a gap to the driver behind him, but we'll have to just have to see. Crofties, on the other hand, does have a 3-second time penalty himself, so if he can just stay within 3 seconds of Golden Flame, he can get past him, assuming that he creates enough of a gap to the driver behind him. Which, at the moment, doesn't seem like it's really happening. Things have slowed down near the front of the grid, so why not check out some of the action going on near the middle or the back of the grid. We can see now Hallinan closing the gap, Fabrinaldi actually getting past Mini Turns very easily, as it seemed like the Joker Psycho had slowed down significantly there, as it doesn't seem like he's really got any top speed whatsoever. A bunch of drivers got past him very, very easily, and now we can see Jack Kings closing in on Bambino. Bambino, once again, extremely slowing down. Not too sure what happened there. Jack Kings, with the inside line, manages to get past him and promotes himself up into P7. Hallinan now closing the gap to Bambino. Doesn't look like those 18-lap-old hards are really holding out anymore. And with 5 laps left to go, there's really no point to come in and change them either. Unfortunately, it looks like he's lost out on that window to come in for the pits and really help himself there. But now we can watch as Hallinan with a 6/10 gap. Actually, Bambino closing in on right back on Jack Kings, which I'm sure is fine through the straights, but over the course of the corner, you can just see how much faster Jack Kings is as he already begins to pull away on the exit. Mini turns, looking to maybe make an overtake on Halanan? Oh, sorry, Fabrinaldi maybe looking to make an overtake on mini turns, but unfortunately nothing doing yet. But as we look towards the front of the grid, Golden Flame has brought himself within a second to Saeed. Both drivers have 8-lap-old medium, or now 9-lap-old medium tires. Saeed, of course, has the added benefit of not having a single penalty at the moment, has driven a very clean race through the session. Now as we watch Golden Flame close this gap, how will Saeed react? Obviously having a battle with another driver does significantly slow you down, and it does create a gap to the driver in front. We have a virtual safety car. For what reason? We have the Joker Psycho has retired from the session. Oh, and we can see his car on the wall there. Unfortunate for the Joker Psycho with only 4 laps left to go in the session. That's going to be the end of his race. And unfortunately for him, he's going to have to retire from the session. Lap 25 of 29 now, and we have a virtual safety car. So I believe that makes it 2 virtual safety cars, 2 safety cars throughout the course of this race. Which, granted that we have a full grid, I'm actually rather pleasantly surprised it wasn't more. We got a good chance to witness some great racing. And some not so great racing. Fabrinaldi seems to be extremely close to Halanan at the moment. And over the course of this virtual safety car, Golden Flames actually kind of dropped back almost. Jaguar and CL actually head in for the pits. In a shocking move, your race leaders actually go straight in for the pits. I'm not too sure about this decision. It looks like the Lucky High has also gone in. Crofties, on the other hand. Has anyone not taken this? Jack Kings hasn't taken it. It's a full-fledged safety car now. And Golden Flame manages to come out ahead? What has just happened here? Hold on. So Jaguar, who is currently leading the race, decides to go in for the pits. Understandable. CL follows, well, not really understandable. CL, actually, you know what? 4 laps left to go. Probably 3 laps left to go. Probably a good call. Jaguar goes into the pits. CL goes into the pits. Saeed goes into the pits. Almost everybody goes into the pits. Golden Flame stays out. Jack King stays out. Mini Turn stays out. Cassell stays out. And Prezemu stays out. Bambino, of course, switching onto the soft tire compounds, trying to get as many positions as he possibly can in the last few laps of this race. And with only 3 laps left to go in the session, I can't imagine that the virtual safety car will be out for longer than just this lap. We will probably just go we'll probably just go back to racing conditions at the end of this lap. So what does this mean for Jack Kings and Golden Flame? Golden Flame, of course, we can't forget, has that 6 seconds of penalties. So there's really not much he can do. He will most likely lose out on a considerable amount of positions. However, can't be too unhappy with himself, granted that he was near the back of the grid at one point. And we can see a sea of red as almost all drivers decide to switch onto the soft tire compounds now. Will Race Control give us the update? Race Control has not said anything as of yet. We will have another lap behind the safety car. And through this safety car, this will give a good chance for Trems and Font to catch up to the rest of the grid, as almost all drivers have now picked up penalties. Lap 27 to 29 now. What an interesting turn of events. But what's interesting now about this is that Jaguar has obviously the fresher, much faster set of compounded tires. I doubt there's much Jack Kings and Golden Flame will really be able to do. But with 2 laps under racing conditions, I don't know about this idea for a person like CL or a person like Lucky High or Crofties. Because now they have a significant gap to the front of the grid. And I just don't know if there's really enough time for them to really make up all those positions, because of course nobody's gonna give them up now. Even if you're on the older compounder and the slower compounder tire, you're fighting tooth and nail to keep that position. Granted, there's only 2 laps left to go in this race. This may have worked out brilliantly for Jaguar, but I'm not too sure. Actually, this might have worked out brilliantly for the Alpine team, though. I'm just noticing now they're sitting P1 and P3 respectively. And race control has given us the update that the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. And now it is up to Golden Flame to go at a time he deems best to catch Jag Kings off guard. We'll ride on board with him, of course, and keep our eyes at the back to get a good idea of when Golden Flame decides to go. You can just see him taking his time. No rush. There's no need to be fidgety or panicky about this. Just keep yourself calm. But you do have to catch the driver behind you off guard, so maybe try to find a good place to do that. And as we've seen, the favorite place to be to do just that seems to be the final corner. So we'll watch again from Golden Flame if he decides to go through with this through the final corner. Hasn't decided to go as yet. And now he decides to go. Pulls away from Jag Kings. Jag Kings, there's not much he can do as he already begins to fall back a little bit. We can see the Alpine of Jaguar now with his two-lap-old soft looking to get past Jag Kings immediately as soon as he possibly can. And I doubt there's much Jag Kings will really be able to do about it now. Jaguar with the outside line heading into the next corner. We can see Jag Kings decides to back out of the move very early on, and Jaguar now promotes himself up into P2. Now keeping our eye on CL, who's obviously sandwiched between a bunch of these cars. There's no way he's really going to be getting past them through this section of the track. We have a yellow flag in Sector 1. It seems to be Prezem, who's unfortunately has been involved in some sort of incident. Jaguar most likely will be getting past his teammate to take the lead of the race, unless his teammate makes his life very, very difficult for him, which I would be very surprised to see. Obviously, no DRS just as yet, heading towards the chicane. And no, Golden Flame does not allow Jaguar to go through. It seems to be a race between both teammates. But unfortunately for Golden Flame, Jaguar does have the faster set of tires, and he promotes himself up into P1 as Bambino has had some sort of incident. Bambino, who's looking to be on the podium or fighting near the front of the grid, has unfortunately had to retire from the session. And that's going to be the end of his race. Now keeping our eye on CL, who is, of course, the only other driver in the top 5 to have the soft tire compounds, is looking to get past Fabrinaldi as soon as he possibly can, trying to go around the outside. What a fantastic move there from CL as he manages to promote himself up into P4. Jaguar, of course, setting the fastest time of the race with a 1:19.8, and CL was looking to maybe get overtaken by Fabrinaldi. He has to go onto the gravel there, and how will he defend from this position? He doesn't look like he has any DRS, and he has both the Mercedes and the Williams closing in on him, and mini turns managing to take advantage of Fabrinaldi's distraction and managing to get past him and promotes himself up into P5. CL now currently in P4, trying to gain on Jag Kings as soon as he possibly can. Race control gives 3-second penalty to Lucky High at the moment, and we're in lap 29 of 29. This is the final lap of the race. CL absolutely pushing it, trying to catch up to Jag Kings as soon as he possibly can. Of course, we don't have DRS at the moment. And now we can just see CL trying to catch up to Jag Kings as much as he possibly can. The red flashing light signifying that he's completely out of ERS through the chicane now, looking to get a very nice exit out of this corner. And a very nice exit is exactly what he gets. CL heading around the outside of Jag Kings, and now he's going to make the move. He's already made the move, promotes himself back up into P3. Unfortunately, he's going to be too far back from Mr. Golden Flame to really catch up to him to make a move. But what a fantastic race this has been at Australia, and a big congratulations has to go to Jaguar, who's driven a fantastic race through this session and really couldn't have done anything better. Jaguar comes across the line and wins the Australian Grand Prix. Mr. Golden Flame comes over across the line, finishes in P2. However, due to penalties, will drop down into P4. Jag Kings gets promoted up into P2. CL gets promoted up into P3. Crofty's in P5. Saeed in P6. Cassell in P7. And P8 goes to Hallinan, P9 going to Lucky High, and P10 going to Fabrinaldi. What a fantastic race this was. Holy. Drama till the very end. Just as we thought things had begun to stale out and the front of the grid had evenly spaced itself out away from each other, the virtual safety car at the end there completely throwing a spanner in the works. And a big congratulations to Jaguar for keeping his head cool and coming across the line to win the race. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, that will be all from us here in Tier 2. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join me for what was a fantastic race. Jaguar winning 2 races in a row will obviously be extending his gap at the front of the championship. But you can join us all next week as we head to, I believe that's Monza. I hope that isn't Imola. But hopefully an Italian circuit regardless. But thank you all so much for joining me in this session. This has been fantastic. And I hope to see you all next week, next Thursday.